Hello, ladies and gentlemen, powerful vaginas of all ages. I'm TG, and I'm here today to talk to you about the awesome multiplayer experience that is Evil Dead the Game. Today, I want to tell you guys about a puppeteer build that is just so much damn fun, and my win rate is pretty high with it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're going to win every match because, as we all know, no build makes that possible, but I think I found a pretty strong one here. The goal of this build is to make your possessed units as strong as possible, and you're also going to be relying a lot on Elagos, who, unlike other bosses, is pretty much invulnerable if you play him right. So what I'm going to do is show you where I spent my points, explain why I spent them there, and then show you some examples in-game of them in action. And on top of all of that, I'm also going to be crunching some numbers with you guys near the end, just so you know why this build is as powerful as it is. So let's get started. When I first looked at Puppeteer, what I wanted to do was go for a survival possession build. I thought nothing could be better than that. It's what the Puppeteer does, right? They're puppeteering. However, after playing quite a bit with a build like that, as you can see now, I have almost nothing on the bottom of the tech tree, which is all survivor possession, because it looks really good on paper, but it doesn't really work. So I decided to transition that into a unit possession build. So to start things off with, we got a few points that we just need to use to get to the meat of the tree. Number one is Shock and Awe. We're going to increase the damage radius of Thunderstruck by 5%. Also 1 point in Tenacious Demon Dash, which reduces the cooldown for Demon Dash, making it 110 seconds. And then 1 point in Insane Clone Posse, which increases the damage of your clones by 5%. Now, what we really want is Health Razor Elite. This is going to increase the maximum health of elites by 15% using only 2 points. And why this is important is because Puppeteer, unlike the Warlord or the Necromancer, their elite units don't suck. We need them to survive just long enough to get off a Thunderstrike and maybe even a clone. Speaking of Thunderstrike, we're putting 3 points into High Voltage, increasing Thunderstruck's damage by a whopping 10%. And then we're going to put in Scare Your Demon Dash, which increases the amount of fear that survivors receive from Demon Dash by 50. We're just doing that so we can get on to the stuff that's good, like Gates of Hell Elite. 3 points will give us a 15% reduction in the cooldown of placing Elite portals, and then Rock Steady Elite, which will increase the balance bar length of elites by 15%. Next, I want to talk about the best point in the tree, and this is probably, in my opinion, the best point in any demon tree. Prison Rules. 1 measly point will add a 5% bleed effect to all of Elagos' melee attacks. So, doesn't seem like much. However, it stacks. The time at which you have to actually cause the bleed is limited, but because Elagos attacks so fast, if you move in for a flurry, you're typically going to be able to get about 5 quick attacks in, especially if you're picking off single survivors, and that's a 25% bleed. Not only that, but whenever you use your heavy AoE attack, it's actually going to apply the bleed to everything that you hit with that. And whenever you use your grab as Elagos, that counts as a melee attack as well. So you can quickly see how this is just stacking that bleed. And quite honestly, this will win you games. This point it's so good it should be illegal, but it's not. So we're going to use it. Moving on to 1 point in Power Surge. Again, we don't really need this, but we need to get deeper in the tree. It's going to increase Elagos' grab by 10%, but we do want 3 points in Demonic Demolition, which causes the Berserker's self-destruct to do 15% more damage. I'm also putting 3 into Gates of Hell Basic, which is going to reduce the cooldown between placing basic portals by 15%, and then 3 points into Rock Steady Basic, which increases the balance bar of basic units by 15% as well. So you can see things are starting to take shape now. It's not like a lot of the basic unit possession builds that I'm seeing nowadays, which are, in my opinion, kind of boring. They're certainly boring to play against, but this one kind of focuses more on using all of your units, using everything that you have at your disposal. So your basics, your elites, and your boss, of course. What this, of course, means is you're not going to be 100% overpowered in just one thing. You're not putting all your eggs into one basket. It's a lot more even, and you're going to have a lot more wiggle room, a lot more breathing room whenever you're dealing with survivors throughout the game. Moving on to 3 points that I think are kind of underrated. Berserker Blowout increases the blast radius of the Deadite Berserker's self-destructibility by 15%. So that means that effectively, whenever a survivor destroys your Deadite Berserker or you self-destruct, not only do they have to dodge, which they've gotten used to, but they actually have to time their dodge, or else they're going to dodge back into the explosion anyway, because they actually can't get far enough away now. Next are another 3 points that are very, very important. Rock Steady Boss increases your resistance to balance bar damage when you're using Elagos by 35%. So why that's great is because unlike the other two demons, Elagos is invisible and invulnerable unless he's attacking, which means you're taking less balance bar damage anyway, unless you're in the middle of an attack. So using Elagos it's a little different than using the other two bosses. It's more of a waiting game, quite frankly. Unless you know you're in a position that you can down the entire team or do whatever it is that you gotta do, what you really want to do is play mind games. And that's why a lot of people like to call Elagos kind of like a glass cannon, because they just go all in and do as much damage as they possibly can in like the short, brief time that he's alive for. But if you're playing the mind games, you can weave in and out of combat, and you're gonna last a heck of a lot longer. Now to finish things off down here, we're putting 3 points into Health Razor Basic, which increases the maximum health of basic units by 30%, and 1 lowly point into Wicked Fast, which increases the respawn speed of Infernal Orbs by 15%. You don't have to put this here, you could put this somewhere else. I like it just because I find Demonic Energy is the most challenging part of playing the demon. And finally, the Prière de Résistance, a 9-point commitment, which sounds like a lot because it is, but it's worth it. 9 points into Heavy Damage Boss, Heavy Damage Basic, and Heavy Damage Elite. This is going to increase all their damage by 10%. Now 10% might seem a little low, but keep in mind everything else that's going to be stacking on top of it. So when it comes to the numbers, first your basics. Their health is going to be increased 30%, their damage is going to be increased 10%, their balance bar is increased 15%, and their portal cooldown is reduced by 15%. And on top of that, their self-destruct is in effect going to be 25% more powerful. Moving on to the elites, you look at their health, it's increased by 15%, their portal cooldown is reduced by 15%, their balance bar is increased by 15%, and their damage is increased by 10%. And then finally, when it comes to the man, Elagos, his balance bar is increased by 35%, and his total damage is increased by 10%. Finally, there's a little bit of confusion how Puppet Master works. Whenever you're using the active skill, and only whenever you're using the active skill, so not whenever you manually possess a unit, but only when you're using the skill, you're going to see an increase to damage by 10% and an increase to your maximum health by 40%, and that is on a 90-second cooldown. I can't count the amount of people that I've heard say like, oh man, Puppeteer's not even good at possession, but like, that's his thing. It's because they're not really understanding. You actually have to use your active skill. If you're just possessing your normal units, you don't get these bonuses, which is why it can seem that the Puppeteer's not good at possessing, but he really is. So when it does come to that, Puppet Grandmaster is going to give you a bonus to health and damage by another 5%, and then Puppet Grandmaster 2 is going to do the same thing, another 5%, and finally, big surprise here, Puppet Master 3 is going to give you another 5%. So that's an increase to your health and your damage by 15% whenever you possess using your Power Possess active ability. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the build. That is my favorite way to play the Puppeteer, who I think is the most fun demon. I hope you guys agree. But if you don't, let me know down below what you think, and let me know what you think about the build. I hope it helps you out just a little bit. And don't forget, guys, stick around the channel because there's going to be lots more builds, lots more guides, all for Evil Dead the Game, coming very, very soon. And of course, don't forget, I'm TG. If you like what you saw, you know what to do.